whips it into the back of the net, and the Cougars go up 3-1.
He'll swung on and missed, strike three.
Shot, fadeaway three, got it!
Wow.
Oh, what a shot!
Welcome to another edition of the Bobby Cremins Show. I'm Nate Ross, your host, of course, joined by head coach of the College of Charleston Cougars, Bobby Cremins. We're going to cover all aspects of College of Charleston basketball as we do every week. And coach, an unusual, it seems like I say this every week, an unusual week. Last week you go to Davidson, you have to deal with no Anthony Stitt in the lineup. This time you go to Georgia Southern, and because of the injury at Davidson for Ajay Brew, he doesn't play in the game. So it's a different lineup every week for you guys.
It is, Nate. And we're learning to adjust. And again, you know, you can make excuses all day long, but injuries are part of the game. And so I don't like to talk about it a lot, but obviously it plays an impact on your team. But what it also does on the positive side, it gives you an opportunity to make adjustments, and particularly the biggest opportunity is for other players to step up. And, you know, you talked about Anthony Stitt. That's what he did earlier in the year. So we got to keep putting in bodies, and we got to hope some of these bodies step up. It's a challenge, especially in a tough league like the SoCon. You know, everybody asks me, well, who's the best team in the Southern Conference? And I said, well, you got to give me some time. Well, we've gotten some time, and it looks like Davidson right now, because they're undefeated. Wofford is very, very good. The one thing I can assure you, Nate, there are no easy games in our conference. Just to give an example, Greensboro comes in here, and they beat us. They go over to Citadel, and they win on a last-second miracle play. So there are no easy games in our conference, and it's a tough conference. Georgia Southern, under the guidance of Charlton Young, and a couple of years ago he had some tough injuries.
Yeah, Willie Powers out for a year
Willie
last year.
Powers is back. They have an outstanding sophomore. But Nate, Davidson, Georgia Southern, we lost those games, but our kids, there were some bright spots. They fought hard. I know everybody gets down because of losses, but second half in Davidson, I couldn't be more proud. We came back. I thought we were going to be right there. Georgia Southern game, same thing. We came back, and we actually had a shot to tie or take the lead. So, you know, I cannot fault the effort of the players. The effort is there, but the results are not what we want right now.
Antoine Wiggins has been on a tear the last couple games. 17 points and 12 rebounds at Georgia Southern without Trent in the game for most of the first half because of foul trouble. Right. Antoine's been a warrior.
Well, the rebounding particularly. You know, I love to see Antoine get in there rebound. That's a real bright spot. You know, it's tough. He's our lone senior, and you know, and basically in a nutshell, you know, we started out tremendous, and now we're obviously struggling. And I really admire the players who can handle this and just keep playing. It's not easy. And so I'd love to see seniors do well there last year, and I hope Antoine continues to play well.
Well, Coach, at Georgia Southern on the road, and of course then you came back home, TD Arena, Furman Paladins.
Yeah, Nate, you know, we got a little beat up on the road, and we came home to play a good Furman team, a team we had defeated at Furman, and we didn't get the job done. And I congratulate Jeff Jackson. You know, I know it's been a while since they've beaten us, but his team came in here ready to play. Nate, we were not ready to play the first half. And that's my responsibility. That's a head coach's responsibility. During the week, we were trying to make some adjustments, and I was fluctuating between this, that, or this. And I kind of jumped around. I kind of thought we had something good, and I then went back to something else. And I could tell in the first half we were really, really frustrated. And that's my responsibility. And I feel terrible about it. Now, the second half, it was a different ball game. We made some good adjustments. They came out right away. Brian Irwin hit 2 threes to put us in the hole. But then, Nate, and I can never fault kids for trying. The second half, we fought hard. We fought hard, and we came so close to getting back in the game.
Well, you fought on both ends. You fought inside, and then they hit a killer three with the shot clock running down. It was a desperation shot, but it went in for them.
Yeah, we put ourselves in the hole, and I put our team in the hole, and I feel terrible about it. And, it doesn't get any easier with all these games coming up. And these losses are hard. They're hard on everybody, and it's a frustrating time right now for College of Charleston basketball. So all I can tell you is, we have to keep going. You got to put one foot in front of the other, and you have to keep going.
And that's what I was going to talk to you about next. I know that they never quit, but there's another one coming up. Then there's another one coming up. How do you get over this? How do you get through this period?
We got some issues right now, and it starts with me. I got to make sure that we're ready to play. And, again, the second half against Furman, it was enjoyable to watch. But the first half, we put ourselves in a hole. We came out flat. We came out with lack of confidence. And I hated to see that. And, again, that's my job. I have to get them motivated, ready to play.
Trent Wiedemann, double-double, 11 rebounds, 10 points. He fought like crazy.
Yeah, you know he's always going to give you everything you have. Nate, we're beat up, and you can make excuses all day long. But the bottom line is, we had an opportunity, and I personally just feel bad that we're not doing the right things right now. So we'll show up, Nate. We'll be ready for the next game, and hopefully we'll do the right things.
Is it back to basics, or is it just take the next step?
It's getting rid of this frustration, and I think take the next step.
This week, the Coca-Cola Play of the Week comes from Hanner Fieldhouse as the Cougars played against Georgia Southern. 6:35 to go in the second half, and the Cougars needing a bucket to cut into the lead. Antoine Wiggins gets the rebound, finds Nori Johnson streaking down the right side. Nori gets the pass and drives to the hoop, and everybody in Hanner Fieldhouse thinks, here comes a layup. I don't think so. A very athletic dunk and a foul on Cam Baskerville as he tries to block it. I think they call this a posterization. A dunk for Nori Johnson and the start of a comeback, which the Cougars needed late in the game against Georgia Southern. Nori Johnson with an amazingly athletic dunk and one against Georgia Southern. It's our Coca-Cola Play of the Week.
Johnson elevates to block it. Charleston and Furman tied at 10.
Welcome back once again to the Bobby Cremins Show. And this is Cougar Conversations, which we have every week in the show, brought to you by our great friends at Jim and Nick's restaurants all over the Charleston area. We're joined, of course, by Steve Bammel, who's the Director of Sports Performance at the College of Charleston for all sports. And if you look at Trent Wiedemann running up and down the court, you say, man, he's big and strong. And you look at Andrew Lawrence, it's not because of Trent and Andrew. It's because of this guy right here, Steve Bammel, and all the things he does.
Maybe a little bit.
You and I talked before we did this interview, and you have a vast time period to deal with these guys in all sports, especially in basketball. Before the season in the summer, preseason, during the season, after the season, a lot of different things, and it's sports specific. What's the difference between what they do preseason and what they do during the season?
Well, starting kind of in season, just because that's the time period that we're in right now, we get workouts in twice a week. Typically, those workouts will be total body workouts focused on maintaining or increasing upper body, lower body strength, as well as core, and then hitting some prehabilitation movements, so some things to try to prevent injuries, ankles, knees, shoulders, things like that. So some common injuries that you may find as a basketball player, we'll do that over the course of the preseason. As we move to the off-season time period, we'll typically give the kids about 2 weeks off immediately following the season, let them kind of rest and recover and get everything, schoolwork in order and all that type of stuff, and then I'll kind of get back with them. Being that we're kind of coming off our main part of playing basketball, but the littlest part of us doing, the general training with me, the weight training and running and things like that, I'll put them into about a 4 to 6 week period, which I call a general preparatory period. And during that time, I'm just kind of priming their body for everything leading up to the next season. So we're working on getting full ranges of motion back. We're working on pushing exercises, pulling exercises, upper body, lower body, and kind of generally starting to increase the volume leading towards that next season. After that 4 to 6 weeks of like general prep work, that's when we'll get into the heart of our strength, speed, and power training. Those guys will be training anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week with me, with workouts ranging from in the weight room, things like that you would picture, to speed work, agility work, plyometrics, jumping, all that type of stuff, just trying to enhance our athletes and their performance on the court. Those workouts will typically take place throughout the summer, leading back to when they kind of come back to school. And then once they come back to school and we start individual workouts and things like that, I'll start cutting back my things. We'll increase conditioning and on-court running and things like that a little bit more. I'll start cutting back some of the weight training and some of the extra that I do with them, leading right into that preseason time where we got to start focusing on basketball again.
People come into TD Arena, they walk down George Street, they can see the giant glass windows where your office is and your equipment are. Basketball as opposed to other sports, there's a lot of stuff in there. Did they use all that? Or is it sports specific? I mean, how is it sports specific for hoops?
I mean, what we did was I designed that weight room to be able to accommodate every team that we have. Because every team that we have, from equestrian to sailing to basketball to baseball to soccer, everybody uses that. So it's designed to be able to accommodate every single person. I mean, we built it from scratch. We had the equipment custom made. So, every team is able to use everything that we have in there. As far as how the workouts change and things like that, it really goes with priority of that sport. If we compare basketball to soccer, soccer is more of an aerobic endurance sport. So just the programming and how I lay things out is going to be very, very different. The heart of a soccer program is going to be that aerobic and endurance training, focused on improving VO2 max, lactate threshold, lowering heart rates, things like that. Whereas for a strength power sport like basketball is we're focused on vertical jumps and powers and strengths and things along those lines. So it's not so much the equipment, but it's the actual program design that winds up getting to be specific.
How about different positions on the basketball court, backcourt as opposed to front court, different kind of exercises?
Absolutely. As far as our team goes, I individualize out every single program. Literally every single program is individualized out. So for each person. So from backcourt to front court, it's individualized out, but also our seniors and our freshmen aren't in the same spots.
Good point.
So I sit down, talk to the coaching staff, and I see what their priorities are for those given athletes at that time. Last year when we sat down after season, we said, hey, Trent Whittyman, he needs to be a little bit bigger. So that was Trent's priority of his program in the offseason, but that wasn't necessarily Antoine's priority, or that wasn't necessarily Ajay's priority when he finally got here, as a freshman. So we're always constantly tweaking those programs for what we're looking to get out of it. Trent's real big, he's real strong right now. It's time to keep that program moving. We're not going to just keep redoing that program. We're moving on to footwork, agility, speed, plyos, things like that. So there always has to be specificity of training. Everybody wants to think that you can build everything up immediately, right away. Oh, he's bigger and stronger and faster and can run longer and all that stuff. But the reality is there has to be priorities in training, secondary things in training, and when you hit those priorities, then you keep it moving.
And unfortunately this year, you've had to deal with a lot of injuries, Coach has. So you're dealing with Chris Horschel and the doctors when rehab's over and when strength training begins. I mean, there's a tough, you got to mesh everybody together.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, for us, as far as the way I'm concerned, I really try to look at limiting some of those chronic injuries. So, from ankles and knees and things like that, that's kind of my job, is try to look at what the most common injuries are and try to limit those things. Unfortunately, we've had, some acute injuries and things like that, and those things, unfortunately, just happen in sport, and you hope they don't happen in clusters, which we've gotten a little bit here. But, I mean, if I could prevent a basketball player from reaching for a ball and breaking a bone in his hands, then I'd be a magician instead of a strength coach. So, that's what we're looking to do. But as far as bringing players back from those things, Chris and I sit down, we talk to the doctors. Chris tells me what their limitations are, and then we continue training around those. So Anthony Stitt may not have use of one hand right now, but we're still training lower body. We're still doing on-court conditioning, doing track conditioning. I mean, when he gets back here in 3 weeks, he's going to be ready to go 20, 30 minutes like he hasn't lost a step. So that's kind of where my role comes in as far as injuries go.
When you come to TD Arena and you see this man sitting at the end of the bench and cheering on the Cougars, you don't understand how much work goes into what he does as the director of sports performance for the College of Charleston, not just for the basketball team. Steve, thank you very much for joining us on Cougar Conversations. We'll be back with more of the Bobby Cremins Show right after these messages. Thanks for joining us back with the Bobby Cremins Show once again. And this is the portion of the show we look at next week's opponents and various things around the NCAA and maybe even the NFL. Brought to you by our great friends at Piggly Wiggly. Coach, on Saturday, Wofford Terriers come right in here to TD Arena. You've played them once. It's time for round 2 of the Southern Conference play. And, of course, led by Cochran, had a great game, shooting threes, and then Losing and Giltner. And Mike Young's got a heck of a team.
Yeah, Brad Losing. Well, first of all, Wofford has been to 2 straight NCAA tournaments, which means they won 2 Southern Conference tournament championships. And, you just cannot say enough about their program. Mike Young, what a fantastic job they have done. And they're good again. And they run some great stuff. And Brad Losing, he's a handful, I can tell you, Nate.
Good player. And then on Monday, quick turnaround, long trip down to Sanford, and Jimmy Tillett, a very difficult style of team play, and they got some talent as well.
Yes, they've had some great wins.
Yep.
And Sanford does that Princeton-style offense that is so famous, and Jimmy does it as well as anybody in the country. And again, the short preparation, Nate, with playing these games so close together, those prep days are so important.
Well, normally it's Thursday, Saturday, but this time it's Saturday, Monday for Sanford. And then on Thursday, make the trip back up to Elon in North Carolina and play Matt Matheny's Elon basketball team with Austin Hamilton, Jack Eisenberger, Lucas Troutman, 6'10".
Yeah,
tough to handle.
We played very well against them here, and I remember after the game, Matt was not happy. So they'll be sitting up there in Elon waiting for us.
3 games as Coach just said, in a condensed week. And Coach, is it more about execution or is it more about effort now that, not the 3 games, but second half of the season?
Well, Nate, it's starting to be mental now. And number one is, you can't get discouraged. And, we won a lot of games here. The expectations are always high here. And right now, we gotta adjust. And, it's my job to keep these guys motivated. I gotta generate their energy. I've gotta, stay calm. I gotta stay positive. I gotta stay confident. And it's my job to bring energy to the table every day. Because young kids, they can read coaches.
Yep, no question.
And they know I get down sometimes. But, they also know I love this game. And, we've been, we just got to keep adjusting and then try and keep hanging in there and try and make that breakthrough.
You talked about expectations. You talked about winning a lot. There's 2 teams that are going to play here pretty soon. Not this week, but next. Giants and Patriots. Who you like, Coach?
Well, first of all, the Giants. The NFL is something. Of course, Bill Belichick he's an incredible coach. And I watched him throughout the years, and to see Tom Brady and the way he executes. Now, you talk about execution. He's absolutely incredible. But the playoffs have been incredible. And, I grew up in New York. My late brother, Danny, who was a butcher for 40 years, lived and died with the Giants. So I got to go with the Giants. I'm sorry, Coach Belichick.
I'm sure he won't be too upset, but you got to go. I figure, from New York, you're not going to pick New England in this game. You coached in the ACC for many years. It's Duke, North Carolina, North Carolina. This year, Florida State and Virginia are pretty good. I mean, they might give them a fight. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, Virginia, of course, Florida State with the big upset at Duke. You know, everybody talks about a two-horse race between North Carolina and Duke.
Yep.
But, Nate, you're absolutely right. Keep an eye on Florida State. Virginia lost to Virginia Tech at home, but they're getting closer and closer. Georgia Tech is in a rebuilding situation.
Not only does he know Southern Conference basketball, he's giving you your Super Bowl pick, so you can't go wrong there. And he's picking the ACC. Maybe a little upset happening. You never know. We'll be back with a lot more to Bobby Cremins Show right after this. Do not change that channel. Back to the Bobby Cremins Show. As we told you after this edition of the show, it's tough week for the Cougars. Remember, we have 3 games to play this week. But Cremins and I alluded to the fact that that's unusual. We play 3 games a week. That's the way the schedule is. The Cougars start the week right behind me in the TV arena. At 3 p.m. Saturday, as Mike Young and Washington Terriers come into town. Trust me, they're a lot louder than they is right now. And then a quick turnaround to Cougars go to Stanford to play Jimmy Select team down there for an 8 o'clock tip. And then after that, the Cougars go on the following Thursday up to Elon to play 19 for 17. So Saturday here at 3, Monday at Stanford at 8, and Thursday Elon at 7. 3 games this week. Hopefully, Cougars 3 games, 3 wins. We'll play 10 against Cougars this week. So Bobby Cremins and myself, Nate Ross, we want to thank you as always for watching the show. We hope you join us again next week with Bobby Cremins.